Hello, my name is Jacob, and welcome to the sleepy cosmos. The sun sinks low, and with it, the world begins to exhale. Shadows stretch gently across the walls, and a hush settles over the rhythm of the day. Outside, birds tuck their feathers under wings, trees fall still, and traffic softens into a hum like distant waves. But inside you, something very different happens as your body begins to prepare for rest. Your mind does not grow quiet, not yet. Instead, it stirs. Like a house that comes alive only when guests have gone, your inner world brightens in the dim. Thoughts rise, stretch, wander. What was tucked away during the busy hum of the day begins to find space. There is something sacred about this hour, the in-between. It is neither work nor sleep, not quite night and no longer day. Your brain, having spent hours responding, doing, moving, now begins to unfold inward. It turns its gaze toward itself. All day, your mind has managed decisions, tracked time, interpreted faces, scanned for danger, and kept pace with the world. Neurons fired rapidly in networks across your cerebral cortex, making judgments, taking in information, and reacting with swift precision. This activity is like rowing on a busy river, a constant push forward. But now, as you lie down, the oars lift from the water. Your brain changes state. Activity in the sensory cortices, those regions that process what you see, hear, and touch, begins to slow. The prefrontal cortex, your center of reason and attention, softens its grip, and something remarkable happens. New patterns begin to emerge. You feel it first as a soft flickering, a cascade of thoughts that seem uninvited but familiar. The mind begins to narrate, replaying conversations, rethinking choices, wondering about futures, remembering small forgotten things. It's not noise. It's more like a tide coming in. Scientists call this shift the transition from task-positive networks, the brain circuits used for focused action, to the default mode network, or DMN. This is the part of the brain that becomes active when you're not engaged in anything external, when your eyes close and your thoughts wander inward. The DMN takes the stage. The DMN is not a single place, but a constellation of areas in the brain, connected like old friends exchanging letters. They light up together when you daydream, when you remember, when you imagine yourself in the future. And at night, they bloom as if the brain, after a long day of performing, finally steps behind the curtain and begins its true soliloquy. You may feel like your thoughts are racing, but this is not chaos. It's your brain reorganizing, processing, making sense of your day's experience. It's sorting through what mattered and what did not. It's reviewing the script before letting go of the stage. This process isn't just poetic, it's deeply biological. Your brain is an energy-hungry organ. Though it weighs only about 3 pounds, it consumes nearly 20% of your body's energy. And most of that energy goes not toward motion or problem solving, but toward something quieter, self-referencing, memory, integration, the quiet work of knowing who you are. So when the world outside dims, the world inside lights up. And what seems like overthinking is, in fact, the mind doing what it evolved to do: reflect, narrate, imagine. Consider how ancient this nighttime introspection is. Long before electricity, long before digital light, humans sat beside firelight and listened to stories, to thoughts, to the pulse of their own minds. In that flickering dark, our species learned to think beyond survival, to wonder, to remember, to dream. Even now, your mind carries that rhythm. But while this internal blooming is natural, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. The thoughts may come too fast or linger too long. The mind, having waited patiently all day for your attention, now floods your awareness like a tide long held back. It helps to know this is not a malfunction. It's a rhythm, and your body knows it well. As you lie in bed, you may feel like your brain won't stop moving, but in truth, it is shifting modes. The mental focus of daylight gives way to a more diffuse awareness, one that's softer, more emotional, more connected to memory than logic. You drift from doing to being, and just like the light that fades slowly through the sky, your mind, too, takes time to dim. This is the dusk of thought, not an end, but a changing color. There's comfort in this. Your wakefulness is not the enemy of sleep. It is a pathway to it. These blooming thoughts are not interruptions. They are the first signs that the deeper mind is waking, preparing for its own kind of rest. A rest that includes reflection, repair, and renewal. So tonight, when your thoughts begin to unfurl in the dark, imagine them not as weeds, but as wildflowers, each one a petal of your day, opening itself in memory and meaning. They rise not to bother you, but to be noticed, and then, slowly, to fall as you breathe slower. And the room cools, your brain begins to respond. Cortisol levels drop, and melatonin, the chemical messenger of darkness, begins to rise in your bloodstream. It whispers to the brain, let go, come inward. You feel the pull of that whisper. Your limbs grow heavier, your breath steadier, your mind more dreamlike. But the thoughts have not stopped. They've simply changed shape, from words to images, from stories to sensations. And just as you start to follow them, a new rhythm takes hold, one that belongs not to daydreams or reflection, but to a quiet internal theater where the mind continues its work. Even as you drift further from wakefulness. Where does this quiet storytelling lead? What hidden stage does your brain turn to once the lights go dark? There is a part of your mind that waits patiently all day. While you're solving, speaking, reading, and reacting, it stays behind the curtain, quiet but alert. It does not speak loudly when you are busy, but it is always humming underneath. And when night falls, when you finally rest your head and let the day slip from your hands, this part steps forward like an old friend with a lantern. This is the default mode network, the unad pattern of brain activity that awakens when the outer world goes quiet. You might not know its name, but you know its feeling, the hum of memory, imagination, and internal dialogue. It is not a single spot in the brain, but a constellation regions that light up together, like stars, remembering a shape. The medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate, the angular gyrus, they form a circuit, a loop, a whispering ring of reflection. During the day, you're often tuned in to what's called the task-positive network, a system designed for goal, attention, navigating, working, analyzing, responding. But when you slip into rest, when there's no button to press, no task to complete, this other rhythm takes over. It's not interested in solving problems. It wants to wander. This is why, as your body sinks into stillness, your thoughts begin to stir. Not in chaos, but in quiet curiosity. One idea leads to another, like stepping stones across a dark stream. A memory flickers, and your mind follows. A what-if arrives, and you lean in. It feels so natural that you may not notice it happening at all. You lie still, but inside you're moving, not through the world, but through yourself. The DMN is deeply tied to your sense of identity. It is the backdrop against which you picture who you are and who you've been. It connects the dots between yesterday's events and tomorrow's plans. It strings together your life like a quiet thread, weaving the personal story that only you can tell. So it's no surprise that at night, when there are no more tasks to silence it, this network becomes a storyteller. It recalls the moment earlier when someone looked at you with warmth, and also the moment you forgot something important. It plays scenes from your childhood, rearranged like dream fragments. It replays conversations, invents new ones, prepares scripts for situations that may never arrive. This is not because your brain is faulty, it's because it's active, alive, trying to understand the life it lives inside. Like a musician tuning an instrument, your brain uses rest to adjust your internal world. The DMN plays this role beautifully, but sometimes it plays too long. It loops a scene again and again. It picks up a worry like a smooth stone and turns it over endlessly in the dark. And that's when the mind, still soft and reflective, becomes restless. You might call it overthinking, but really, it is your brain doing its quiet work. It is scanning emotional weight, predicting outcomes, and assembling a narrative. It is trying to protect you, trying to learn, trying to give meaning to things you did not have time to feel during the day. Think of it like cleaning out a closet. All day, you've shoved things inside without looking and finished emotions, half-formed ideas, brief glances, tiny wounds. And now, with time and quiet, your brain begins to take them out, one by one. It doesn't always know where to put them, but it tries. This process is deeply human. We are storytelling creatures, and the DMN is the source of our inner narrator. It lets you imagine your future self, rehearse changes, replay experiences, and even simulate conversations in your head. It helps you stay anchored to your sense of self and also stretch beyond it. But it doesn't always know when to stop, especially at night when cortisol lingers or stress hasn't yet softened. The DMN can echo endlessly like sound bouncing between canyon walls. That's why it helps to listen without judgment, to let the thoughts pass like clouds instead of chasing each one. Because even though this network is active, the more you poke, the more they scatter. But if you rest your hand gently at the edge, they settle on their own. There's beauty in this rhythm. The DMN is not your enemy, is your companion, your scribe, your inner mapmaker. It is the mind's way of holding a mirror to itself. And this mirror reflects more than just memory. It also catches light from the future. What you dream of, what you fear, what you long to become. It imagines paths forward as much as it replays what's behind. No wonder the night feels full of echoes. This is why your thoughts seem louder in the dark. Not because they've grown, but because the world around you has quieted enough for you to finally hear them. So tonight, when you notice this inner murmur, you can greet it like a gentle narrator. Let it tell you what it needs to tell you. Then let the story drift unfinished, perhaps into stillness, because beyond narration lies something else, a slower rhythm, a softer tide, your body has begun its descent into deeper rest. Hormones are shifting, cooling, guiding you further inward. The default mode quiets, and another rhythm begins to rise. A tide ruled not by thought, but by chemistry. And so you begin to feel it in your bloodstream, the slow fading steps of wakefulness, and the last graceful dance of cortisol. The sun has long slipped behind the horizon, but your body still carries traces of daylight. A whisper of alertness remains in your limbs, a faint vibration just beneath your calm. Your eyes are closed, your muscles softening, but something inside is still watching. This watcher is not a thought or memory. It is something more subtle, more ancient. It lives in your bloodstream, not your mind. And its name is cortisol. Cortisol is your body's day song. It rises with the sun, swelling gently in the early hours, nudging you from sleep, sharpening your senses. It helps you stand, speak, solve, survive. In the rhythm of waking life, cortisol is a kind of conductor, keeping time, keeping pace, keeping you alert. But like all rhythms, it must eventually shift. As light fades, your body prepares to let cortisol go. It does not vanish instantly. No, it bows out, slowly, gracefully, like the final dancer leaving the stage after a long, bright performance. This slow departure is essential. If cortisol dropped all at once, your body would crash instead of rest. So it lingers just enough to help you fold your day into night. And yet, sometimes, the curtain doesn't fall as planned. Stress, even small or unnoticed, can cause cortisol to linger. It's a signal. It tells your body to stay ready, to keep the lights on a little longer. You may feel this as restlessness in your chest, as thoughts that loop, as tension in your jaw. It's the body saying, not yet. The day is not over. Even if the world outside disagrees, this isn't your fault. It's biology. Your adrenal glands, nestled like soft stones atop your kidneys, release cortisol in response to pressure, real or imagined. And the brain, especially at night, can't always tell the difference between a passing thought and a real threat. You lie in the dark, but your body still prepares to act just in case. And so, the mind spins. You think about what you said and how it might be taken. You rethink decisions made hours ago. You picture what might go wrong tomorrow. Another chemical quietly begins to rise, melatonin. It drips into your system like ink in water dark. Slow, persuasive. Melatonin doesn't push cortisol out. It invites it to rest. It softens your inner edges, signals your body to shift modes. If cortisol is the day's conductor, melatonin is the evening's lullaby. Together, they perform a twilight duet, one bowing out, the other stepping forward. If the balance is right, the dance is seamless. Your body dims, your thoughts fade, and you cross the soft threshold into sleep. But if the day's stress clings too tightly, cortisol may hold the spotlight too long. And you feel it not as fear, not as panic, but as a quiet resistance to rest. There are ways your body gently reclaims its rhythm, breathing slower, lengthening your exhales, settling your gaze into the dark. These acts send signals to your brain that it is safe, that you are not under threat, that it is okay to dim the lights inside. You may notice that as your breath slows, your thoughts don't disappear, but they change texture. They soften at the edges. They lose urgency. This is the shift you are waiting for. Not silence, but surrender. Not emptiness, but ease. Cortisol begins to step back. Your nervous system tilts toward rest. Your muscles remember what it means to release. And in that stillness, you begin to notice something else, a quieter hum, a deeper rhythm beneath the swirl of thought. This is the body's wisdom, even when you are left with something much older than thought, something that doesn't think at all. It begins as a heaviness in your limbs, a warmth behind your eyes, a wave rising from within, and it brings you toward the edge of another kind of mind, not the busy, thinking mind, but the one that knows through feeling. You are entering the realm where thoughts become sensation. What grows in the still soil of a brain at rest? Let us follow these roots inward into the quiet bloom of open thoughts. Your day ends, but your mind does not. Even as the world outside dims and your body rests heavy in the bed, your inner world begins to flicker again, not with dreams, not yet, but with thoughts that seem half-finished, half-urgent. You know this feeling. You've felt it many nights. You lie still, eyes closed, yet your brain feels like a glowing screen behind your forehead. Then another. A task you forgot. A deadline tomorrow. Another tab opens. What to pack for the trip. How to word that message. The face of someone you haven't thought of in months. It's not that you're trying to think. It's that your mind, left without direction, begins to sort itself. Like a web browser running in the background, your brain keeps dozens, hundreds of threads alive throughout the day. Some are loud, like news headlines flashing red. Others are small, quiet reminders tucked into corners. But all of them are tabs, waiting to be read, processed, or closed. During the daylight hours, you don't notice how many are open. You're too busy switching between them, clicking through tasks, conversations, errands. There's always a next thing. But at night, there's no cursor to click away. No next thing. Just the mental desktop open, glowing. Full dot. This is your brain's working memory, a kind of mental workspace that holds information temporarily. Like a table filled with papers, it can only hold so much at once. And at night, with no external task to clear the table, those papers scatter into view. You try to file them away. You tell yourself, I'll think about this tomorrow. But the tabs resist closing. Each one carries a trace of incompletion, something unresolved. And the brain, deeply wired for closure, doesn't like loose ends. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, named after a researcher who noticed that people remember unfinished tasks more clearly than completed ones. But at night, these mental flags can feel like flares, lighting up your awareness just when you long for stillness. The more emotional the task, the more personal the memory. Make the appointment. Others are emotional whispers. Why did I say that? Do they still care about me? Am I doing enough? And some tabs are ancient. Memories or fears that never truly closed, just minimized over time. Hiding beneath newer windows. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. Scan for threats, resolve unfinished stories, protect your future. But it was never designed to do this alone, in the dark, without end. The truth is, your brain is trying to help you. It opens these tabs as a way of organizing, but at night, without clear boundaries, it becomes overwhelmed by its own system. So what can be done? Not to silence the thoughts, but to let them settle. You start by noticing the tabs, not with frustration, but with compassion. You say to your mind, "Ah, yes, you're still working. You care. Thank you." Sometimes that is enough. A thought seen is a thought softened. A worry acknowledged begins to release its grip. You might try naming the tabs out loud, or writing them down beside your bed. Turning thoughts into words, external, physical, real, lets the brain close the tab without forgetting the content. It feels heard, it moves on. Breath helps too, because while the brain keeps clicking, the body knows how to pause. Each slow breath tells the nervous system, "You are safe, you are here, you can stop now." With every gentle inhale, you dim a little more of the internal light. With every slow exhale, you allow one more tab to fall gently shut. Not all tabs will close tonight. Some will remain open, some must, but they don't all need to be held at once. You are allowed to set them down, even the important ones. You'll find them again in the morning, rested, reshaped, perhaps even softened by time. The brain is remarkably forgiving. It does not need perfection, only rhythm. And sleep is part of that rhythm, a trusted system for closing what you can and trusting the rest to rest. So now, as you feel your thoughts circling, imagine them as tabs on a screen, slowly fading. One dims, then another, a memory, a plan, a question, each one letting go, not erased, not lost, just placed aside. There is space again. The screen goes dark. The mental browser goes still. And now, beneath the screen, beneath the tabs, something older stirs. Not thought, but memory. Not worries, but roots. Because even as the tabs begin to close, the brain continues its nightly ritual, tending its garden of memory, planting seeds for dreams. What does the mind choose to keep? What does it gently prune away? Let us follow that path into the quiet care of the memory garden. Close your eyes, and the world begins to fade. Not all at once, but gently, like sunlight dissolving behind leaves. You feel the soft weight of your body against the bed, but inside, something is still moving. Not your muscles, not your breath, but your memories. They rise, slowly, like mist lifting from the earth. Moments from the day that seemed to pass unnoticed. Now return a smile you didn't fully feel, a phrase you heard but didn't pause to absorb, a color, a taste. They are being gathered, sorted, and stitched together by a part of your brain that never truly sleeps, the hippocampus. Think of your hippocampus as a gentle gardener. All day long, it collects new experiences, planting them like seeds, storing them in soft, temporary soil. But it is during the night, as you drift into deeper rest, that it begins its real work. The hippocampus doesn't simply save memories. It sifts them, decides which are worth keeping, and which can be gently let go. This work begins before you're fully asleep. You may feel it as the quiet stirring of memory, the soft replaying of moments that meant something, or perhaps could have. This is your brain reviewing its harvest. Like a gardener walking between rows, noticing what grew well, what needs more space, what might not belong. It does this through a rhythm of replay, tiny electrical patterns repeating scenes from the day. These bursts of activity are called sharp wave ripples, and though they last only fractions of a second, they are deeply important. Emotion, attention, and novelty are like nutrients to the soil. The The more something moved you or surprised you, the more likely it will be planted deeply. These are tagged for tending. You may wonder why this matters, why the brain does not simply store everything like a camera. But your brain is not a recorder, it is a storyteller. And storytelling requires editing. To make sense of the world, your mind must forget wisely. This forgetting is not a flaw. It is the gardener pruning branches so the roots can grow stronger. During early sleep, especially in the first few hours, your brain begins this delicate pruning. Connections between neurons are reshaped. Some are trimmed back, others are strengthened like vines wrapping around a trellis. It's called memory consolidation. But you might think of it more like weaving strands of experience, being pulled into your longer narrative. The hippocampus sends these strands to the neocortex, where long-term memories take root. What was fleeting becomes part of your inner landscape. It is why some memories fade, while others stay with you, not as exact images, but as feelings, shapes, and meaning. You don't recall every detail of a good conversation, but you remember how it made you feel. This is not imperfection, it's refinement. And yet, memory is not only about the past, it is also rehearsal. Your brain replays certain moments so you can prepare for what comes next. It simulates outcomes, it practices emotions, it updates your inner map so you wake with a better sense of how to be. Even dreams may help in this way. Though strange and shifting, they often draw from the day's memory fragments, reshuffling the garden paths, replanting ideas in new soil. And while this memory work can feel busy, even restless, at first, your brain is slowly sinking deeper into stillness. Each memory tended is one less whisper in the dark. Each thought reviewed is one less tab to reopen. You may find that your mind begins to grow quieter the longer it is allowed to reflect. This is the rhythm of rest, not the absence of thought, but the reshaping of it, the composting of experience into something that will nourish you later. So, tonight, as memories flutter through your awareness, try not to swat them away. Let them land. Let them move through you. The gardener knows what to keep, what to let go, what will bloom again. And as the hippocampus eases its work, and your memories begin to settle like petals at dusk, a new quiet begins to unfold, a deeper stillness, not about remembering, but about listening to the language of silence. The nervous system unwinding, because now that memory has rooted itself. The body begins to soften into the slow speech of the parasympathetic rhythm. What does the stillness of your body say that the mind cannot? Let us lean into that soft shift and begin to understand the language of stillness. The room is quiet now. The light has dimmed. The world outside has softened. You lie still beneath your blanket, and in this stillness, something begins to shift, not all at once, but gently, like dusk creeping into a meadow. You are not fully awake, but not yet asleep. You drift in a borderland, a threshold of the mind. This place has a name in neuroscience, the hypnagogic state. But to you, it feels like floating. Thoughts unravel from their tight daytime coils. They loosen, twist, reweave into shapes that make no sense yet feel meaningful. Not yet. This is the edge of consciousness, where the waking brain begins to dim its lights. Two systems begin to trade places. The default mode network, which reflects and narrates, begins to quiet. Meanwhile, the sensory regions, the image makers, and memory painters start to stir. You may still feel like you're thinking, but your thoughts take on a different texture, as if they are no longer shaped by words, but by images, sensations, fragments. This is where creativity lives unguarded, wild, and free. The moment he slipped into this strange space, the key would fall and wake him, and he would capture what his mind had just glimpsed. Thomas Edison did something similar. So did Beethoven. When loosening from reality begins to speak in dreams before sleep fully arrives, you may see a flicker, a brief scene like a memory that never happened. You may hear a voice, not alarming, not unkind, just something strange and echoing. Or perhaps to let go of organization altogether. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and logic, is beginning to dim its activity. Beam, your inner world becomes less structured, and this loosening of structure makes room for what's often hidden: subconscious fears, desires, images, echoes. You may feel your limbs melt into the bed, your breath deepen, your eyes grow heavy, but somewhere inside, your awareness flickers like the final candle in a quiet room. This is not a place your body can stay long. It is a corridor, not a destination. The brain moves quickly through it into sleep's deeper chambers, but sometimes, just sometimes, you linger here. And when you do, you may notice that your thoughts are different. They are not answers. They are questions wrapped in mist. They are images stitched from scraps of memory. They are strange visitors that speak in riddles and vanish on waking. This state, neither here nor there, is not only poetic, it is also practical. It's the mind's way of bridging day and night. It eases the descent into unconsciousness, letting you feel before you forget, letting you wander before you rest. In this soft borderland, your sense of time may stutter. A second can stretch into a story. A sound in the room can become part of your thought, part of the scene flickering behind your closed eyes. Your brain's alpha waves begin to give way to theta waves, slow, undulating, dreamy. They carry you like a boat on low water, pulling you away from logic toward feeling. This transition is essential. It helps memory consolidate. It allows emotion to be filtered. It may even help with problem solving. Some studies suggest that ideas glimpsed in this state can be more original, more fluid. Your brain is connecting dots without needing a pattern. It is exploring safely and silently what it could not in the light. And even if you don't remember what you see here, your brain does. Hold on tightens the mind again. This place isn't for control, it is for drifting. So let yourself be carried. Let the boundary blur. Let thought become shadow, and shadow become feeling. Because on the other side of this edge is a deeper world, where dreams begin to build themselves out of memory and meaning, out of fear and longing, out of nothing at all. And in that world, your body will sink deeper, your breath will slow even more, and your brain will begin the ancient work of repair and rearrangement. But first, this edge, this soft, flickering threshold, this moment between thinking and dreaming. You are almost there, and perhaps, as you slip beneath the surface, you will begin to feel the first stirrings of a world built entirely inside you, one that opens its doors as the waking world gently closes. What stories might it tell, and what truths might your dreams whisper next? The world outside has hushed, but inside you, a quieter world begins to stir. As your body eases into the folds of rest, your mind replays the day not as a full film, but as flickers of light, as echoes that bounce gently in the corridors of thought. A word someone said, a glance you didn't fully understand, a task you meant to finish, a kindness you received but didn't acknowledge out loud. These are the echoes, not loud, not sharp, just present. Soft waves brushing the shores of your memory. They do not ask for answers. They only return, as if to say, I was part of your day, and I'm still here. Your brain is never truly off, even as sleep draws near. One of its nighttime jobs is to sort and store, and before it does that, it listens. It listens to what still hums with feeling. You may not always be aware of it, but your brain marks the moments that stirred something in you. Emotions act like ink on the pages of memory. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the mark. And so, when the night opens, your mind returns to the ink that hasn't yet dried. This is not rumination, at least, not always. It is more like gathering scattered petals from the day, trying to make sense of their color, their placement, before the winds of sleep carry them into dreams. The hippocampus, your brain's memory keeper, works closely with the amygdala, your emotional sentinel. Together, they sort through the events of the day, flagging what needs storing, what needs forgetting, and what might need just one more look before it fades. You might feel this as a sudden image, a hallway at work, the way the light hit a window, or a sentence you said, now heard again with new ears. These are echoes, not of thought alone, but of meaning still unfolding. Why do they come at night? Because, in stillness, your brain has fewer distractions. No meetings, no texts, no immediate tasks, only breath, only silence. And in that silence, the echoes grow audible. Some of these echoes are gentle, moments of gratitude, fleeting joy, laughter remembered in quiet replay. The mind holds those with a soft touch, letting them warm the corners of your resting body. Others may tug a little more. An awkward pause, a conversation unfinished, a small mistake that felt larger in hindsight. These too are echoes seeking not judgment, but understanding. They aren't there to punish, they're simply unresolved. And the brain, ever drawn to patterns, loves to complete what feels unfinished. Sometimes just noticing the echo can be enough. Naming it softly, letting it exist without resistance. You don't have to solve every thought. You don't have to close every loop. Your mind will do that for you, over time, quietly, patiently, beneath the surface of sleep. Even dreams may pick up the thread. The mind speaks in symbols when logic is asleep. So, an unresolved worry might show up not as itself, but as a staircase that leads nowhere, or a room filled with unopened doors. This is not confusion, it's transformation. The brain reshaping feeling into image, so it can be stored without weight. So, tonight, as you lie here, you may notice the ripples. Not tidal waves, just gentle reminders. And you may choose to meet them with kindness. You might say, I see you. You might say, you mattered. You might say, you're safe to rest now. Because the echoes don't need to be silenced. They need to be heard, once, maybe twice, and then they can quiet themselves. Your nervous system listens to two. When you respond to echoes with calm, your parasympathetic branch opens further. your heartbeat slows, your breath deepens, your body begins to believe, there is nothing chasing me now. And in that belief, something sacred begins. Repair, reordering, release. This is why bedtime is not just a closing, but also a gentle reckoning. You touch the day one more time, lightly, slowly, before letting it float down into the deep waters of forgetting. And some of it will rise again tomorrow, made lighter by rest. Some of it will be left behind, composted into the soil of long-term memory, feeding your sense of self, quietly, invisibly. The echoes don't need to vanish. They only need to soften, to settle like dusk upon a still pond. So you breathe, and you listen, and you notice what returns. And you trust that sleep will carry what needs carrying, and let go of what no longer belongs. But even now, with sleep not yet fully here, your mind begins to change its rhythm. It lets go of replay, and it begins to reach gently toward what lies beyond memory, the mysterious terrain of dreaming, where nothing is real and yet everything feels true. And as you float closer to that unseen shore, you may wonder, what does the brain see when it is no longer looking outward, but inward, through the lens of dreams? The day has gone quiet, but your mind is wide awake, not with memories now, but with what-ifs and what-mights. Scenarios rise like sparks in the dark, future moments imagined, rehearsed, adjusted, and reimagined. Again, you lie still, but within you, movement continues, not of limbs, but of thought. A private theater flickers to life behind your eyes. And the show it plays is not about the past, but the countless paths tomorrow could take. Your brain is a prediction machine. It always has been. Not because it loves anxiety, but because it was built for survival. Even in rest, it reaches ahead, casting lines into the unknown, trying to make the uncertain just a little less so. You may find yourself rephrasing a conversation that hasn't even happened yet, imagining how they might respond, and how you might adjust your tone, or picturing an event running through best-case and worst-case outcomes, as if preparing would grant control over something still unwritten. This isn't overthinking in the usual sense. This is your brain doing what it's wired to do, build models of the future based on the incomplete sketches of the present. Deep in your cortex, particularly the prefrontal regions, this work unfolds. It simulates possibilities, runs tiny simulations like weather forecasts, and it does so often without your asking. Like an artist sketching in charcoal, your mind draws outlines, a meeting, a decision, a reply, adding shadows of emotion, highlights of imagined detail, until the imagined becomes temporarily real. But this gift, the gift of foresight, can turn heavy at night. Without the hum of daytime activity, the predictive mind takes center stage, and it doesn't always paint peaceful pictures. It may linger on outcomes you'd rather not consider, as if scanning for danger in shadows that don't exist. This is because your brain evolved not to make you happy, but to keep you safe. And uncertainty, to your brain, feels like a space where something could go wrong, so it tries to fill that space, not with facts, but with forecasts. Sometimes these forecasts feel like control. You plan a project, you prepare for a conversation, you feel equipped. But other times, they feel like spinning wheels, repetitive, unresolved, exhausting. This is predictive looping. When the mind's forward modeling hits a wall but refuses to stop, turning the same thought over like a stone in a hand, too nervous to let go. And this you feel in your body, a faster heartbeat, a shallow breath, the tightness in your chest. Not from exertion, but from imagined futures, stirring real emotions. Your nervous system doesn't wait for reality to respond, it reacts to thought, to the predicted moment, as if it were happening now. This is the curious overlap between imagination and physiology. To the body, worry rehearsed is stress lived. And that's why these nighttime forecasts can leave you restless, even when nothing is wrong. But here's a gentler truth. Your mind predicts because it cares. It wants you prepared. It wants you safe, even when it oversteps, even when it doesn't know how to stop. So, instead of resisting the prediction loops, you might greet them as you would a child who stayed up too late with questions. You might say, "I see you imagining, I see you preparing," and then softly add, "But not everything needs solving now." You can thank your mind for its care. You can assure it that rest is also a kind of preparation. That pausing the rehearsal does not mean forgetting the script, only that the actor needs sleep to perform well tomorrow. In neuroscience, this moment is tied to what's called the default mode network, which, among many things, supports imagination, social rehearsal, and future planning. When you drift inward, this network activates, not idly, but actively, composing and recomposing what could be. And in balance, it's beautiful. It gives you empathy, insight, creativity. But when overactive, especially in worry, it becomes a source of inner noise. That's why rituals of calming matter. They don't erase thoughts, they slow them. They dim the stage lights so your inner actor can step down for the night. You might try breathing slowly, with a longer exhale, a signal to your body that the rehearsal is done. Or you might visualize a box, a safe, velvet-lined drawer where you can gently place tomorrow's plans, promising to return to them when the sun rises again. Your brain doesn't need to stop predicting entirely. It just needs to believe that not all predictions require you now, because sleep, too, is part of the planning process. During sleep, especially REM, the brain continues forecasting, but in its own strange, symbolic way. Dreams can simulate future threats in safe, imagined containers. They can explore emotions without consequence. They can test possibilities with fluid logic and wide imagination. In a way, dreaming is nighttime prediction, with the volume turned down and the rules made softer, so you don't need to push your predictive mind away. You only need to redirect it, to say gently, "You've done enough for now. Let the dreams continue your work." And as you breathe into that letting go, you may begin to notice a shift, the moment when the mind, once busy with strategy, begins to soften into story. The rehearsal stage dims. The future recedes just a little. And another question begins to emerge. Not what might happen tomorrow, but what rises from within when all forecasting ceases, and the dream begins to speak in symbols instead of plans. And so, just as your body settles, your mind opens again, this time to the dreamer within. But what are dreams, truly, if not secret letters your brain writes to itself while you sleep? There is a moment, delicate as a breath, when thinking yields to sensing, when planning loosens its grip, and the world, once crisp and defined, begins to blur at the edges. You don't fall asleep like a switch flicking off. You soften into it. Like petals folding in the dark, your mind draws inward, releasing the shape it held all day. Letting go is not an act of doing, it's an act of undoing. Your body begins at first. Muscles unclench, your heartbeat slows, your breath, that patient tide, becomes quieter. In the brain, chemical messengers shift their rhythm. Melatonin rises like moonlight behind your eyes, and cortisol, the daytime sentinel, drifts away. It no longer urges you forward. The time for watchfulness has passed. Now comes the permission to rest. Letting go may seem like surrender, but biologically, it's coordination. A symphony of systems working together in a choreography older than language. The prefrontal cortex, home of focus and control, gradually steps back. It releases the steering wheel. Decisions dim. Judgments fade. The voice in your head, so busy, all softens its tone. Meanwhile, deep in the brain, the thalamus gates begin to close. This structure, like a crossroads of sensation, filters external input. Sound becomes distant. Touch becomes muted. Your attention turns inward. You may still hear the distant traffic or the rustle of wind at your window, but it no longer claims you. Your brain learns, moment by moment, how to ignore the world in order to rebuild itself. Letting go is not forgetting, it is rebalancing. The hippocampus, guardian of memory, replays what it must, then files it gently away. Not everything is kept, only what matters, only what connects. This is the pruning, the sorting. Your brain knows what to keep and what to let dissolve into the quiet. Even your sense of self, the story of you, begins to drift. At the edge of sleep, you are less your name, less your role, and more a flicker of feeling, a presence without narration. This, too, is by design. The default mode network, so active in storytelling and identity, winds down its commentary. In its place, a different language rises, not made of words, but of images, impressions, and dream logic. Letting go doesn't mean you disappear. It means you return to a simpler version of being, not less real, just less bound by edges. There's science here, yes, neurological shifts, hormonal rhythms, but also something else, a kind of trust. Your brain cannot sleep if it believes you are in danger. To let go is to tell it, I am safe now, even if just for this night. And sometimes that's the hardest part. A worry, unresolved, a list you forgot to make. But the beauty of biology is this: it helps you release what your conscious mind clings to through slow breathing, through warmth, through stillness. Your parasympathetic system, the rest and digest branch, gently takes the reins. It lowers your blood pressure. It quiets your gut. It soothes your immune system. It tells every cell, stand down. You've done enough. And so the body paves the way for the mind to follow. Still, there may be resistance. Sometimes the act of letting go awakens fear that if you stop thinking, you'll forget. That if you rest, something might go wrong. But sleep is not a betrayal of effort. It is part of the effort. It is the recovery, the archive, the reset. Letting go is trusting the rhythm that has held you since birth. Wake, rest, wake again. And tonight, it asks only this: to set the bundle of the day down, to release the backpack of identity you've carried since morning. You are not required to solve everything now. You are not expected to be productive with your final waking breath. You are allowed to simply be. No answers, no endings, just breath. And the soft dissolving of thought as the thalamus gates shut and the cortex falls quiet. You hover in that in-between, a space where time drips slowly, where thought becomes color, and color becomes dream. This is the place just before the plunge, the last breath of awareness before dreaming begins. And in that breath, your brain unlatches the last door. You pass through, not falling, but floating, carried by a process older than memory now. Your conscious mind fades, but your dreaming mind awakens. Another world stirs beneath this one. What does it see, and how does it speak when language sleeps and symbols rise? You have released the day now, set down the burdens, softened the mind's grip. You lie still, but something stirs. Beneath the surface, this is not silence. It is a quieter kind of motion, like currents beneath a lake, too calm to ripple. Here, thought does not stop. It changes its shape. You no longer think in sentences. You dream in symbols. And though the lights of consciousness have dimmed, something behind them glows on faint and steady. It is the subconscious, a vast and ancient realm where logic relaxes and something older than language begins to speak. Your conscious mind, the part that plans, analyzes, and narrates, is like the surface of the ocean. It's brilliant and busy, but below it, hidden in shadowed depths, lives a whole other world. This is where memory is sorted, emotion is integrated, and the quiet work of being alive continues. Even as you sleep, your brain remains vibrant. It cycles through stages, light, deep, dream-rich, each with its own rhythm, its own purpose. In non-REM sleep, your brain becomes a gardener again. It clears the neural clutter of the day, strengthens important connections, and dissolves the rest into compost. Imagine a forest after rainfall, where droplets cling to every leaf. The brain moves through that forest, deciding which droplets to keep and which to let fall. This is subconscious housekeeping, emotional cleaning, cognitive pruning. But it's not only cleaning, it's composing. Your brain writes beneath your awareness. It composes narratives, even in sleep. It sketches outlines for feelings not yet fully formed, and paints meanings you haven't fully noticed. This is the mind beneath the mind, the deeper intelligence you often ignore while awake, too busy, too loud. Now in the quiet, it comes forward. It has space. And when the REM stage arrives, when your eyes twitch behind closed lids, a strange and powerful world opens. Here, the subconscious performs its theater. Dreams begin. Dreams are not nonsense. They are puzzles made of pieces you didn't know were missing. Your brain, free from sensory input, turns inward and begins to stitch. It stitches memories with emotions, images with ideas, past fragments with future rehearsals, and the result, a dream, unpredictable, surreal, but deeply personal in your dreams. Time collapses. Logic loosens its grip. You may be in your childhood home, but speaking with tomorrow's voice. You may fly, but feel the ground beneath you. This is not error. It is poetry in process. The subconscious doesn't follow straight lines. It follows resonance. And here's what's wondrous. Your brain is learning while you dream. REM sleep enhances creativity, fosters emotional resolution, and helps you solve problems without knowing you're working on them. It's as though a quiet council meets behind closed doors. They review your day, your fears, your longings, and then they begin to weave. Your conscious self is not invited to this meeting, not directly, but you feel its effects. You wake with a mood. There's still much science cannot explain. Why we dream in symbols, why emotions take such strange shapes in sleep, why a single night can restore something you didn't know was missing. But what we do know is this: your sleeping brain is not idle, it is not empty, it is exquisitely alive. Beneath the surface of your mind, there are answers forming, memories softening, stories unfolding in silence. You don't need to direct it, you only need to trust it, because sometimes the deepest parts of you speak loudest when you are quiet. And tonight, as you continue to drift, your mind floats gently toward that next mystery, the one where the dreaming brain builds worlds that never were and explores spaces that feel more real than waking. What are dreams really for, and how do they shape the stories you carry back into the light? The light of the waking world is far behind you now. You are drifting gently, slowly into the realm where thought unknots, where time thins, and silence grows lush and spacious. Your breath is the only rhythm that remains. Soft in, soft out. A wave folding back into the ocean. You have walked through the corridors of the mind, wandered with memory, paused with prediction. Beyond effort, a place of gentle surrender. This is not a void. Worked toward it, heartbeat by heartbeat, and now your nervous system, that vigilant watchkeeper, lowers its lantern. The sympathetic flame dims. The parasympathetic breeze rises. A rhythm older than thought, yet written in every cell. Tonight, sleep is not a destination. It is a return to balance, to quiet, to trust. You may feel your muscles melting, as if your body no longer holds itself up, but is being gently held. You are held by gravity, by biology, by the invisible lullaby of neural patterns shifting into slower, deeper frequencies. Your brainwaves change now. They become long and low, like underwater bells. One by one, you release identity. You release urgency. The quiet between thoughts, not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. This is where the brain rests, that the heart will keep beating, that the breath will keep flowing without you having to manage it all. And maybe, and stillness, and a deep, slow yes. Yes to sleep, yes to rest, yes to the mystery of unknowing. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to finish the thought, complete the sentence, or resolve the worry. The body knows what to do when the mind lets go. There is wisdom in this surrender, not weakness, but design. The science of sleep, its cycles, its waves, its symphony of synapses, has always led here, to this quiet dot, to this moment when consciousness dims like twilight. In the space between waking and sleep, you are still you, but wider, softer, quieter. You are the breath, the heartbeat, the hush between neurons. You are the feeling of floating, the sensation of being cradled by darkness, not as absence, but as rest. In this place, nothing is wrong. Becoming one, belonging completely. The night welcomes you, not as a stranger, but as a returning guest. And now, as the final ripples of thought fade, as the edges of awareness blur, you reach a state beyond narration. The story pauses, but in that blankness, your dreaming begins. And while the science of rest continues quietly, regulating, repairing, restoring. You slip gently beneath it. Not gone, but elsewhere. The last words dissolve like mist. A question waits quietly in the deep. What dreams might come when the self no longer asks to be known? Even now, as your eyes grow heavier and the world softens, your body is conducting a quiet symphony, a molecular ballet in the deep halls of your brain. You feel calm, but there is chemistry behind that calm. Not forced, not loud, just the slow turn of ancient gears, designed over millennia to carry you gently into rest. It begins with the sun, a daytime molecule, built for alertness, balance, and mood. Serotonin is like a compass. The edges of your room, your body understands. The light is gone, and in the absence of light, something magical happens. Your pineal gland, a tiny pinnacle-shaped structure nestled deep within your brain, begins to transform serotonin into something else. Melatonin, not a sedative, but a signal, a whisper, a biological nudge that says, it's time. Melatonin doesn't push you into sleep. It simply draws the curtains. It dims the lamps. It invites quiet to take its place, and slowly you respond. Your body temperature drops, your blood pressure eases. Your breath becomes a soft tide, lapping in and out of your chest. You may not feel the shift directly. It's more like the slow arrival of dusk, not a moment, but a mood, a transition so gradual you barely notice, but your cells do. Every system listens, every system responds, even your digestive tract. A long, coiled landscape of neurons slows its rhythm. It knows that night is not for processing, but for resting. Meanwhile, in your brain, a quiet cocktail is being mixed. GABA, the gentle gatekeeper, steps forward. Its role, to hush the chatter, to quiet the neurons that would otherwise fire. To FASTGABA is not a silencer, but a softener. It doesn't stop thoughts, it blurs their sharpness. So your mind, once full of bright edges, now becomes something else. A lake at dusk, a page mid-turn, a world seen through candlelight. This chemistry is not artificial, it belongs to you. You were born with it, shaped by the rhythms of day and night, sun and shadow. Even your dreams are made from this brew. Once melatonin ushers you into deeper sleep, your brain releases another player, growth hormone. It doesn't just help children grow, it repairs, it rebuilds. Of trust, of bonding, of emotional ease. It rises when you feel safe. When you nestle beneath your blanket, when someone's voice soothes you, when your breath slows alongside your heartbeat, oxytocin is there, knitting the body into a sense of okay. The nervous system listens closely to these chemical cues, and slowly it shifts from sympathetic flight, alert, to parasympathetic rest. Digest, restore. You are entering a sanctuary, and the body is the door. In this sanctuary, the language is molecular. The light is dim and golden, and every signal says, you are safe, you can let go. There's no effort required. You do not need to master this process. You only need to allow it. Like a boat surrendering to the current, into ember, carried by it. So if, now and then, your thoughts return, echoes of the day, or flickers of worry, know that your chemistry continues anyway. The melatonin still rises, the GABA still quiets, the breath still flows, the night still holds you. This is not failure to sleep. This is simply the path winding slowly inward, It does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be allowed, and as the chemistry of calm deepens, its work softly aligning body and mind, you might wonder, what else happens while you sleep? What other mysteries unfold in the dark? It begins so subtly, a passing thought, a half-remembered word. You don't invite it, it simply arrives, unannounced. As the body lies in stillness and the world grows dim, there is something about night that makes thoughts louder, not in volume, but in meaning. All day, your attention is pulled outward, toward voices, tasks, colors, and movement. You're protected, in a way, by the busyness of daylight. But now, in this quiet chamber of night, you return inward, and the mind, now unanchored, begins to roam. That's when a soft thought can grow limbs. It stretches out, finds an old memory, links itself to a feeling, and suddenly, it is not just a thought, but a sensation in your chest, a weight behind your ribs, a current running beneath your skin. This is where your brain becomes a translator, a structure deep within your brain, the amygdala. The amygdala is your emotional tuner. It listens carefully to the tone of your thoughts. It colors them with feeling, even when you're unaware it's doing so. It does this not to torment you, but to help you survive. Its job is ancient: detect significance, scan for danger, a sign, emotional urgency. But the amygdala isn't subtle. It speaks in pulses and intensities. It doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, is this important? And often, at night, everything feels important, because now, without the distractions of the external world, your internal world glows brighter. The amygdala's whispers become echoes. You remember something minor, but the body reacts as if it were major. Your heart skips, your stomach tightens. You wonder why you can't just let it go. This is not weakness. This is wiring. Your brain evolved to replay events, not for rumination, but for refinement. Each reflection is a rehearsal. Each emotional swell is your brain trying to understand, protect, and prepare. But the system isn't perfect. At night, cortisol, the hormone of alertness, drops. Two threads, pulling threads, and so a single worry can unravel into a cascade. Not because you're broken, but because your brain is trying to finish what the day didn't let it complete. Your mind is attempting to process what went unresolved, unspoken, unfelt, and in the darkness, where sensory input is minimal, the emotional input intensifies. Feelings surface. They are not always accurate, but they are always meaningful. Their messages, not always clear in language. You are not doing something wrong. You are sensing, sorting, integrating. The body plays its part too. The heart, when stirred by emotion, beats differently. Its rhythm shifts. This change is detected by the vagus nerve, a highway of calm and connection. That signal is sent back up to the brain. We are feeling something, and the brain listens. This feedback loop continues. Thoughts become feelings. This dance is not without rhythm. The very act of noticing can soften the steps. You do not need to wrestle with the thought. You only need to sit beside it, to feel without judgment, to allow without urgency. When you acknowledge a feeling, its chemistry begins to shift. Molecules, they are mood shapers, guides of inner weather. They teach your brain, this feeling has been felt. It does not need to stay stuck. Sometimes, naming the feeling is enough. I feel uncertain. I feel sad. It re-engages reason. It gently tells the amygdala, we've got this. You begin to downshift, not by force, but by understanding. Your breath slows, the body loosens, of perspective, of memory softened by time. This is emotional regulation, but it doesn't always look like control. Sometimes it looks like surrender, like letting the feeling wash through you without holding it down. At night, when thoughts bloom into feelings and feelings drift into dreams, you are not spiraling, you are composting, transforming, reweaving the story of your life. And if that story feels tender, a nightly inheritance, so the next time a quiet thought becomes a wave of feeling, try not to brace. Instead, float. Let it show you what it carries. Let your breath be abode, and when the feeling passes, as it always will, you might find yourself in a new place, softer, steadier, ready for what comes next. And what comes next is the gentle mystery of dreaming itself. A place where thoughts don't just become feelings, they become stories. The room is quiet. Your breathing is soft. You lie still, but your mind is gently moving, like a river at dusk, slow and winding. They appear and disappear without invitation, and yet something within you begins to gather them, these thoughts. Dream seeds, not all will sprout. Some will settle quietly into the folds of your mind and vanish, but others take root, finding just enough attention, just enough emotion, to slip into the next layer of consciousness. Sleep has not yet arrived, but its garden is being prepared. Your brain is no longer in full alert mode. Its lights dim, its voice softens. In its place, older, deeper parts of your mind begin to hum. The limbic system, the sensory cortex, the visual imagination. And in this quiet shift, the sorting begins. Your hippocampus, which stores your days, memories, is still active, sifting gently through what mattered most. Did something surprise you? Did something hurt or delight? A flash of emotion, a half-finished task, an unresolved thought, a beautiful image, all of it is scooped up. Each one is tagged, lightly, with an emotional hue and a sense of importance. And then, deep in the night, some of these seeds are planted. You might wonder why certain dreams feel so strange, so disconnected from your waking thoughts. But they are not random. They are seeds flowering in new soil. Your brain in REM sleep becomes a surreal gardener. It takes the raw material from your day and rearranges it, mixing logic with fantasy, familiar with foreign. A face you saw once in a cafe might reappear in your dream as a messenger, a symbol. A fear you haven't named, an idea you're just beginning to explore. All of these live in the quiet corners of your brain, and in sleep they are allowed to speak. This is not just poetic, it is biological. During REM sleep, the brain is highly active, but differently than when you're awake. The logic centers rest, while the emotional and visual areas glow. Your brain is doing something astonishing. It is integrating your experience through dream. Think of dreams not as stories, but as compost. Your mind takes the scraps of your day, the leftovers of thought, image, and feeling, and transforms them into rich soil for insight, healing, and creativity. Some dream seeds carry unresolved tension. These may loop, repeat, revisit, not to trap you, but to ask something of you, to notice, to feel, weaving a sense of play and openness into the fabric of your being. And some dreams surprise you, not because they're strange. It's most mysterious and most generous. But what makes one thought become a dream while another simply disappears? It depends on attention, not the kind you force, but the kind you surrender. A thought, when paired with emotion, even a trace, becomes sticky. Your brain bookmarks it. It says, "This matters." And the limbic system takes note. If that thought is still floating near sleep, it has a chance to drop into the soil of dreaming. That is why certain bedtime rituals matter. A calming image, a moment of reflection, a kind word to yourself. These are not luxuries. They are cues. They guide the mind toward gentler seeds. You are always planting something with your last thoughts of the day, and your brain, loyal and luminous, takes those thoughts and nurtures them through the night. Even restless dreams have purpose. Even confusing ones are part of the process. The dreaming brain is working, but not for efficiency, for integration, for beauty. A shift, a small, invisible turning. You may not remember the dream, but the seed remains inside you. A new association, a softened edge, a flicker of insight that will rise perhaps tomorrow, perhaps a year from now. So tonight, as you feel your mind drifting, as thoughts arrive unbidden, see them not as distractions, but as seeds. Be gentle with them. Offer them space. You do not have to control what grows. You only have to offer the soil of presence. And tomorrow, without knowing how, you may wake with a new idea, a solution, a feeling of lightness, a softened sorrow. You will wake different, because your dreams have worked through you, and deeper still, beyond even the garden of dream, there waits another mystery, a silence so complete, but inside there is movement, a gentle flicker beneath stillness, not of limbs, but of mind, not full wakefulness, not sleep, something in between, something ancient. Years ago, long before mattresses or door locks or streetlights, sleep meant vulnerability. To rest was to risk. A snapping twig could mean predator. A stirring wind could hide a threat. And so, evolution whispered a compromise. Rest deeply, but never fully let go. Even now, in your quiet bedroom, your brain listens. It listens through layers of night, through the hush of your breathing, through the hum of the world. Awareness across the darkness, deciding what should wake you and what can wait. And deeper still, your amygdala, emotional sentinel, keeps a loose grip on the night's edge. It watches for emotional threats, the way a mother hears her baby cry through walls, through sleep, through dreams. It doesn't rest. It remembers. That voice, that tone, that feeling you had earlier in the day, it's stored and evaluated even now. In sleep, your ears still function. Your heart responds to changes. You might not fully wake, but your body prepares to, just in case. The muscles may not move, but the brain rehearses the script. This is why you sometimes awaken from the sound of your name whispered, even faintly. Why you sense movement in the room before it registers. Why the bark of a dog in the distance breaks your dream into dust. You are not broken. You are protected. This built-in awareness is called vigilance during sleep, and every human carries it. On your first night in a hotel, your left hemisphere of the brain stays slightly more alert than your right. This is called the first night effect. Unsure of the shadows, you feel it when you travel, when you stay somewhere new, the way your body resists full sleep, the way your dreams hover at the surface. But not all vigilance is about outside threats. Some is inward facing. Your brain watches over your heart, your lungs, your temperature. from thought. In this way, your brain is both caretaker and gatekeeper, letting you drift but not drift too far. Even dreams, those vivid, strange, emotional tapestries, are not just images, they're rehearsals. Your dreams simulate danger, practice, survival, run drills in worlds made of metaphor. They are the echoes of vigilance transformed into story. You've likely dreamt of falling, being chased, or being watched. These are not random, they're simulations. Your brain is playing defense just in case, and yet there's balance. It adapts to safety. Over time, when a space proves harmless, your sleep deepens. Trust is built slowly. The guard rests slightly. You fall faster. You dream gentler. Even your body cooperates. Your muscles enter atonia, a gentle paralysis during REM sleep, preventing you from acting out dreams. Your eyes move beneath your lids, scanning imaginary landscapes, but your limbs stay still unless that old circuitry misfires, as in sleepwalking or night terrors. You may wonder, then why do you sometimes wake feeling unrested? Why does your brain seem so busy at night? Perhaps it is because vigilance, once useful, now flares too brightly. In a world where the dangers are emotional rather than physical, your brain doesn't always know the difference. A deadline can feel like a lion, a memory like a shadow on the cave wall, and so your mind watches. A little too much, listens, a little too closely. But there is comfort here, too. Your brain is trying to protect you. It is doing its best, always. You can help it by dimming the lights, lowering sound, creating rhythm, by teaching it this space is safe, this moment is allowed, this rest is earned. Each time you relax your shoulders, each time you breathe a little slower, each time you soothe yourself, gently you tell your ancient brain, you are safe now, and it listens. Sleep, then, is not a shutting down, but a delicate treaty between safety and surrender, between what watches and what drifts, between the vigilant brain and the dreaming self. You do not need perfect silence or perfect stillness. You only need enough safety for the watcher to step back just a little, and when it does, something beautiful happens. You drop deeper. You begin to float. The waves of thought soften into tide pools. The world thins to a hush, and something inside says, yes, now, sleep. But as you drift, of twilight begins inside you a gentle unwinding of nerves, signals, and rhythms. Sleep is not a switch flipped, but a symphony tuned. Each part of your body listens and responds to the ancient music of your nervous system. You feel it in your breath. These are the subtle invitations of the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you designed for rest, digestion, and restoration. Your throat, lungs, heart, and gut. It is like a bridge between mind and body, carrying messages of safety, of ease. And when night falls, it hums its soft refrain. Slow down, soften, release. Your body listens. As you breathe in, your heart rate quickens just slightly. As you breathe out, it slows again. This gentle wave, this rise and fall, is not random. It's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's one of your body's quietest lullabies. When your out-breath is longer than your in-breath, it whispers to your heart, all is well. Your blood pressure lowers, your digestion activates, flight or freeze. It's the part of you that leaps into action, tenses muscles, sharpens focus. It's vital, necessary, beautifully human. But the other side is the parasympathetic, cure, rest and digest. It's the exhale, the sigh, the feeling of sinking into bed after a long day. Sleep, real sleep, comes only when this second system takes the lead. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually, breath by breath, like twilight easing into night. You might notice it. Your limbs grow heavier, your shoulders soften, your thoughts begin to slow. Even your pupils constrict in the dark, signaling to your brain that it's time to turn inward. Inside your brain, the hypothalamus begins to dim the lights of wakefulness. It sends messages to lower your core temperature. It communicates with your pineal gland, which releases melatonin, the hormone that drapes your brain in quiet. And with melatonin's arrival, your nervous system shifts further into stillness. It's a bit like entering a warm bath, gradual, enveloping. Far from it, but the alert systems are muted. The default mode network of the brain begins to quiet its chatter. Instead of cycling through stress, your thoughts start to meander, to wander into dreamlike territory. You may begin to forget the day. This gentle forgetting is not weakness, it's grace. Your nervous system is choosing stillness over vigilance. Sometimes, though, it resists. Stress, anxiety, unresolved thoughts, these all stir the sympathetic system. They keep your body in a state of low alert, even when you're lying still. Your muscles may feel tight, your breath shallow, your chest alert, even if your eyes are closed. But even then, you have access to the tools already within you. You can return to the breath with each deep, slow inhale and longer exhale you speak to your nervous system in a language older than words. You say, there is no danger here. You say, it is okay to let go. You say, rest now. You are safe. Being, they remind the system, you are not alone. Even sound helps. Low, rhythmic tones, like a hum, a soft voice, or distant musics, stimulate the vagus nerve. These aren't distractions, because the nervous system doesn't rest on command. It rests when it feels safe. Think of animals. A deer in the forest won't sleep with ears twitching. A bird on a branch watches the wind before closing its eyes. And you, human as you are, carry the same ancient wiring. To sleep is to believe on some deep level that you can. You don't force this, you allow it. You create the right conditions. You dim the lights. You lower your voice. You move slowly. You give your body space to arrive. And as it does, the sympathetic system, the daytime driver, releases the wheel. The parasympathetic takes over. Sometimes this shift is instant. Sometimes it's a slow unraveling. But it always begins the same way, with a signal, a pause, a breath. Your nervous system is listening. It listens to rhythm. It listens to temperature. It listens to memory. It listens to everything you are and everything you've carried through the day. And in sleep, it chooses not just silence, but balance. This is the gift of rest. Not the absence of motion, but the return to harmony. To the state where your body is no longer reacting, but simply being. And as your heart finds its night rhythm, and your breath settles into steady tides, you realize you don't have to earn sleep. You don't have to fight for it. You only have to stop interrupting what your biology already knows how to do. You are wired for stillness. Rises softly in the dark. What dreams begin to bloom once your body finds its peace? There is a peculiar silence that descends at night, not the silence of nothingness, but the quiet space where your thoughts echo louder. You lie still, but within your mind, a phrase repeats, a moment replays, a worry circles back, again, again. The mind, it seems, is caught in a loop. This looping isn't a flaw. It's not weakness or failure. It's a feature of the way your brain learns, remembers, and protects. But like all features, it can turn into friction, especially when all you want is rest. At the heart of these loops is a simple truth. The brain holds on to what it thinks is important. And how does it decide what matters? Emotion, repetition, unfinished business. You see, your brain is a pattern-making machine. It scans your day for experiences that feel unresolved. If something stirred uncertainty, sparked fear, or touched longing, it stays. The default mode. Network, the part of your brain active when you're not focused on the outside world, begins to hum. This network loves loops. It strings thoughts together, revisits conversations, rehearses possibilities. Sometimes it's a kind of soothing, like rocking in a chair. The mind returns to something familiar in hopes of understanding it more deeply. But sometimes the rocking turns into restlessness. You think, why did I say that? You think, what if it happens again? You think, I should've, I shouldn't have. And so it spins. This is not a personal failure. It's a neural feature. Your prefrontal cortex, the center of decision-making and planning, remains lightly engaged, even as you lie in the dark. Your amygdala, always alert to emotion, amplifies the signal of what feels unfinished. Together, they loop a thought in the hope of solving it. But at night, the solving seldom arrives, because your brain isn't in problem-solving mode anymore. It's preparing to dream, to rest, to unhook from linear logic. But the loops don't always get the message, especially when they are emotionally charged. Research shows that the brain prioritizes emotionally intense memories during sleep consolidation. That means the thoughts most likely to loop at night are the ones the brain wants to store, sort, and make sense of. The problem is it tries to do this right when you're trying to let go, and so a paradox arises. The more your brain wants you to process something, the harder it can be to sleep. This is why even small concerns can feel louder at bedtime. Without the distractions of daylight, thoughts become clearer, but also stickier. You try to set them down, but they cling like static. Still, there are ways to soften their grip. The first is acknowledgement. Rather than pushing the thought away, you name it gently. You say, "Ah, there you are again." Naming it gives the loop less power. You stop feeding it urgency. You allow it to exist without struggle. The second is externalization, writing the thought down in paper, in a journal. In a soft whisper to yourself can signal to the brain that it's been heard, that it doesn't need to keep repeating. Studies show that expressive writing, even for 5 minutes before bed, reduces nighttime rumination and improves sleep. The third is redirection, not in force, but in rhythm. Instead of trying to empty your mind, you offer it something else to loop: breath, sound, imagery, a mantra, a visualization, a memory that soothes rather than stirs. You let your mind wander toward a calmer story, because looping, at its core, is repetition. And repetition can also be healing. Think of lullabies, of ocean waves, of rocking chairs. They are loops, two ones that comfort, not distress. Your mind doesn't need silence to rest. It needs a rhythm that feels safe, and safety is key. Loops often emerge when the nervous system is still in mild alert, when your body hasn't yet received the message that the day is over. This is where your biology and your mind meet. The vagus nerve, your breath, your heart rate, a calm nervous system signals to the brain, you can let this thought go. But some thoughts resist. These are the sticky ones. The thoughts that come with identity, or fear, or regret. The ones tied to your sense of self. The brain holds these close, thinking they're part of who you are. Letting go of them can feel, in some subtle way, like letting go of control. But control is not what you need at bedtime. What you need is permission to release, to rest, to not have all the answers tonight. So here's what you can try. Instead of solving the loop, observe it. Instead of answering the question, hold it gently. Instead of fighting the thought, breathe with it. Imagine the loop like a wind-up toy. Each time you react, you wind it tighter. But if you simply stopwatch, breathe, stay still, the spring loosens, the loop slows. The mind begins to quiet, and here's the beautiful twist. The very same mind that loops in stress is also the mind that loops in creativity, in intuition, in dreams. This pattern-making brain of yours, it doesn't just replay pain, it reweaves. It makes story out of noise. It builds dreams from broken pieces, and in sleep, when you finally surrender the loop not by force, but by trust, your brain begins its deeper work. It turns your day into memory, your worries into symbols, your thoughts into images that float beyond logic. Sleep is not the end of thought, it's the transformation of it. And as you sink into this shift, from looping to drifting, you notice something else, that some thoughts don't need solving, they just need time, and softness, and space. The loop slows, the silence returns. Your breath deepens, and somewhere inside this quiet, a new question begins to form, soft, open, and unhurried. What stories does your mind tell itself once the noise finally fades? The world grows quiet, the lights dim, and with the hush of the external, something internal begins to rise. It's subtle at first, like a reflection forming on still water. You are alone now, but not empty. You are with yourself. At night, the distractions dissolve. No roles to play, no small talk to navigate, just the soft unfolding of your inner world. This is the moment when the mirror of the self appears. Not a glass one, not physical, but a mirror made of memory, sensation, and awareness. It's a kind of return, a coming home to the self beneath all the doing. And while this can feel comforting, it can also stir unease. Because this inner mirror doesn't only show your comet, also reflects what you've tucked away, your fears, your regrets, your longings, your questions without answers. You might wonder why these feelings show up now, when the world is finally quiet. But the truth is, they were always there, just waiting for a pause. Your brain, beautifully evolved, gives space for this pause. It slows its engagement with the outer world. The default mode network, once again, becomes active, bridging your past with your present, yourself with your story. This network doesn't just replay the day, it reflects on your identity. Who you think you are, who you wish you were, who you're afraid you might become. This is not indulgence. This is integration. Self-reflection is not a flaw. It's a function of being conscious. And nighttime is. its most sacred setting. Without noise, the quiet parts of you speak louder. Your inner narrator begins to weave meaning, not always with clarity, but with honesty, because the masks you wear during the Dapoliteness performance protection are heavier in sunlight. They slip off in darkness. This is why the night can feel tender, exposing, but also expansive. You begin to notice things you rushed past earlier, the way someone's words lingered, the truth behind your laughter, the ache beneath your irritation. You realize that much of what you feel during the day, you only fully understand at night. The brain, when unguarded by task and noise, allows emotions to surface with more depth. The insula, the region associated with emotional self-awareness, becomes more attuned in these quiet hours. It listens inward. It lets you feel not just the world, but yourself. This mirror of the self is also shaped by memory. Memories rise like old photographs in moonlight. Some are soft and nostalgic, others sharper, asking for attention. Your hippocampus, responsible for memory consolidation, is active during early sleep stages. But before it files the memories away, you feel them, revisit them, hold them even briefly. It's part of how you make sense of your life. You reflect, you revise, you are EFRAME. This is not weakness, this is growth. Even your worries, which feel sharp at night, are invitations. They are not always problems to solve. Sometimes they are mirrors showing you what matters. The self that emerges at night is often more vulnerable, but also more honest. And that honesty is a gift, because beneath all the swirling thoughts, there is a you that remains constant, a quiet observer, a presence that doesn't judge, only notices. And if you let it, that presence becomes soothing. You begin to witness yourself without urgency, without fixing, without pretending, just watching, breathing, being. And in this tender, twilight space, you may begin to wonder if you can meet yourself so gently here in the quiet of night. What happens when you surrender even deeper, beyond the mirror, into the boundless, symbolic world of dreams? Your body rests, the muscles soften, the limbs surrender, but your mind, it continues to move. Stillness, strangely, does not silence thought. Instead, it gives it room to echo. Like footsteps in a quiet canyon, your mind becomes louder in the hush. As your body lets go, the stage belongs entirely to the invisible, and the invisible is vast. Thoughts arrive, alive. They stretch backward into memory. They leap forward into imagination. They swirl in circles of curiosity, wonder, and worry. It feels, at times, like you're watching the mind walk without you. It follows paths you didn't choose, wanders into stories, rehearses old conversations, rewrites old endings. This is the paradox of stillness. When you stop moving outward, you begin moving inward, and the brain, your beautiful inner traveler, does not waste a moment. It loops through the default mode network, a constellation of brain regions that activate during rest. This network is not idle. It's where you dream, reflect, imagine, and simulate. It is the birthplace of internal experience, while your body lies tucked under covers. Your mind might be walking along a childhood street, or into a future that hasn't happened, or beside someone you miss, or within a version of yourself you've only glimpsed. The mind in stillness is not silent, it's expansive, without the anchor of the outside world. thought becomes more fluid. You are not constrained by time, nor physics, nor linearity. A scent from earlier can bring back a whole summer. A stray word can awaken an old ache. A flicker of imagination can build a universe. The prefrontal cortex slows its grip, no longer needing to organize, manage, or decide. This gives more space for the associative networks regions that link memories, meanings, and emotions to speak. That's why thoughts at night feel dreamier, stranger, deeper. Your brain isn't just processing data, it's composing inner symphonies of sensation and symbol. In this internal movement, your mind may revisit wounds. It may hold a mirror to regrets, but it also begins the gentle process of healing, reconciling what was, and imagining what could be. And that work, quiet and unseen, is part of your evolution. You don't need to act. You only need to witness. Your nervous system listens to the vagus nerve. That long, winding thread of calm responds to the pace of your breath. Each slow inhale tells your brain, you are safe. Each slow exhale says, you may go deeper. And so, the mind walks further into the symbolic, into the poetic, into thought that is not just thinking, but feeling, sensing, becoming. This is not restlessness. This is reflection, magnified by stillness. And you may ask, why now? Why when I'm trying to sleep? Because this is when the mind is uninterrupted. No tasks, no clocks, no eyes watching. The quiet removes the need for masks. And in that soft emptiness, the truest parts of your psyche rise like stars in a darkened sky. You are not broken for thinking at night. You are wired for wonder. The brain evolved not just to survive, but to reflect, imagine, and create in rest. This is why you solve problems in dreams. Why insight often arrives in the middle of the night. Why creativity and memory tangle together in moonlit thought. Your mind, in stillness, becomes more itself, more feeling than form, more presence than pattern, more vast than visible. You are not failing to rest. You are entering a space where rest and reflection merge. So allow the thoughts to walk. Let them rise, wander, soften. There is no urgency here. You are the quiet witness. And as you observe, the thoughts begin to settle. Not because you force them, but because you allow them. Stillness does not silence thought, embraces it, and soon, gently, the movement of the mind begins to shift again. Not into loops, but into symbols. Not into words, but into images. Not into reflection, but into story. Because the inner traveler is not done. It is just beginning a new kind of journey, the dream, and you may start to wonder. What stories will your sleeping mind begin to tell next? You are lying still, perhaps with your eyes closed. But inside your skull, a quiet performance begins. It is not noisy, it is not frantic, it is precise, fluid as moonlight over water. Your brain, often imagined as a storm of thoughts, is now a stage. On it, regions take their turns. Some step forward, others bow away, and together they perform the nightly transition from waking to sleep. This is neural choreography, and you, without effort, without even knowing, are the stage on which it unfolds. As wakefulness begins to fade, the reticular activating system, the circuit that keeps you alert, starts to dim its glow. This system, rooted in the brainstem, quiets its call to attention. its job is done for the day. It lowers the curtain on the outside world. But as one circuit dims, another awakens. The ventrolateral preoptic nucleosa cluster deep in your hypothalamus begins to hum. This tiny group of neurons acts like a sleep switch. It releases inhibitory neurotransmitters like GABA and galanon that whisper, "It's time, let go, drift." These messengers don't shout, they soothe, they lull. They quiet the chatter between your neurons, one synapse at a time. Elsewhere, the thalamus, the brain's grand relay station, softens its transmission. During the day, it acts like a bustling airport, guiding sensory signals from your body to your cortex. But now, it slows the flow. External stimuli no longer land on your conscious runway. The noise of the world is turned down, and in that gentle silence, your inner music grows louder. Then comes the slow-wave symphony. Your cortex, that wrinkled outer layer, begins to pulse in unison, not fast and scattered as during waking hours, but slow, deep, deliberate. Delta waves rise. These are the signature rhythms of deep, non-REM sleep. They are not chaotic. They are coordinated. Billions of neurons firing together, then pausing together. A wave, and then a hush. A wave, and then stillness. It is this rhythm that cleanses your mind, literally, as these deep oscillations sweep through the brain. Your glymphatic system, a kind of nighttime cleaning crew, awakens. It clears out cellular debris, flushes metabolic waste, and makes space for tomorrow's thinking. It is during this stage that memory is strengthened, emotions are untangled, and learning becomes part of you. This part of the dance is about repair and integration. Your hippocampus, the keeper of memories, works with your cortex, replaying the day's events like quiet rehearsals. But the volume is turned down, the edges softened, facts become understanding, experiences become knowledge, pain becomes meaning, and through it all, your body is still. Yet your brain is more active in sleep than it is in quiet wakefulness. This is not paradox, it is purpose. As deep sleep fades, a new movement in the ballet begins. REM, rapid eye movement. The curtain shifts. Your brain lights up again, but not in the same way as when you're awake. Now, the pons, another brain structure, takes the lead. It paralyzes your muscles for your safety, so your dreams remain within you. But it also activates your visual cortex, your emotional centers, like the amygdala, and your association areas, where ideas connect. This is when your most vivid dreams appear. They may be strange, they may feel symbolic or surreal, but they are part of your brain's attempt to rehearse, resolve, and renew. During REM, your brain becomes a stage for the abstract. You might dream in metaphors, in feelings that don't have names, in images that echo but don't explain. And though the logic of the waking mind fades, there is a different kind of clarity, emotional truth, layered in metaphor, revealed in symbols. This is not random firing, it is pattern seeking, emotional, sorting, creative, restructuring. Scientists once thought REM was the playground of nonsense. Now they understand it's where your brain reconfigures itself, making you more flexible, more imaginative, more prepared to meet the world again. And this cycle, non-REM to REM, then back again, repeats throughout the night, each round lasting about 90 minutes. A rhythm older than language, a pattern shaped by evolution. You float through these phases again and again, and with each loop, the choreography shifts. Early in the night, deep sleep dominates. Repair, memory, restoration. Later, REM takes over. Emotion, creativity, integration. Your brain is not just sleeping. It's balancing, adjusting, becoming dot. And all of this quiet dance of regions and rhythms happens without your will. It is gift, not effort. The brain you carry into each night knows how to heal itself, knows how to find its rhythm again, knows when to hold on and when to let go. And as you lie here, perhaps on the edge of sleep, you are a witness to this silent ballet. Your only role is to surrender, to trust that the music will carry you, that the choreography is ancient and wise, that your brain, in its quiet, the day's events once scattered like loose pages begin to gather. Some are bound into story, some are trimmed and filed away, some are deemed unimportant and released like exhaled air. Your brain is selecting, strengthening, and sometimes even reframing a conversation you barely noticed earlier. Now it replays, but not with noise, with meaning. A tone, a glance, a word that felt ordinary is highlighted, reconsidered. The keeper of long-term knowledge. Together, they whisper back and forth, "This matters." This is memory consolidation. But it's also emotional weaving. Your sleeping mind doesn't just remember it, make sense of things. A disappointment from the day is softened. A tension is placed in a new light. Sometimes it's not the memory that changes, but your relationship to it. Your amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm bell, calms its flashing. In sleep, especially REM sleep, it becomes less reactive, more reflective. You revisit feelings, but from a distance, as if you are both the actor and the observer. This perspective, this inner distance, is how healing begins. In this way, your sleeping brain is also your quiet therapist. It allows grief to be felt without overwhelming you. It lets you revisit pain, but wrapped in the safety of dreams. It gives you rehearsal space to say what couldn't be said, to imagine what might have been. Even your problems, the ones that tangle you by day, can be unraveled at night. You've felt it, waking with clarity, a solution rising from nowhere, a knot that somehow loosened. This is not magic. It is the intelligence of sleep. Your prefrontal cortex, home of logic and planning. Old memories pair with new information, and suddenly, insight emerges. It's as if your mind, untethered from the constraints of daylight thought, discovers a more creative. Across cultures, dreams have been portals to guidance, to mystery, to self-discovery. Now, neuroscience shows us why. Because dreaming allows for integration. Different regions of your brain, the emotional, the visual, the verbal, collaborate without interference. The result isn't always rational, but it's meaningful. And that meaning stays with you. Even if you don't remember the dream. Steadier. Your dreams are not distractions. They are the echoes of your brain processing, repairing, imagining, and it's not only psychological. Your body, too, is guided by sleep's quiet intelligence. Your immune system strengthens. Your cells repair microscopic damage. Your hormones recalibrate, balancing hunger, regulating stress, restoring vitality. Growth hormone flows most freely during deep sleep, not just for growing children, but for the healing of wounds, the regeneration of muscle, the refreshing of skin, the renewal of tissues you don't even notice. Sleep is the body's renewal ritual. Even your heart beats differently, slower, more rhythmically, more efficiently. Your blood pressure dips. Your vessels soften their tension. This nightly calm gives your cardiovascular system the reset it needs, and in the background, digestion, mood, and even immunity. All of this coordinated in silence. A wisdom that doesn't need your permission. You don't think your way into sleep. You surrender to it, and in surrender you are refined. You wake not just rested, but subtly altered, more coherent, more connected, more yourself. This is why sleep loss feels like a fraying. It's not just tiredness, it's disintegration. You react more, reflect less. You lose your emotional margin because sleep is not passive. It is active intelligence, a nighttime council of brain and body, meeting beneath the surface to make sense of your life. It is decision-making, mood regulation, memory processing, immune balancing, cellular repair, all woven into the fabric of sleep's long hours. And when we deprive ourselves of it, we lose access to that unseen wisdom. But when you allow yourself to rest, truly rest, you give your brain the space it needs to become not just smarter, but wiser. There's a gentleness in this kind of knowing. It doesn't demand, it arrives slowly, as calm clarity, as quiet understanding, and maybe tonight, as you slip into the folds of sleep. As this chapter closes, a question begins to rise, slow and shimmering. If sleep is the mind's secret wisdom, what happens when you let go completely and dream not just of memory, but of possibility?